Well, hello.
Amber live. Sorry.
We are laughing because my son Joseph was trying to get my videos to work in my PowerPoint, and we're still having some technical difficulty. And of course, I came through a little bit slow, and then that put some pressure on him. And wow! But now we're relaxing because we just get to talk to you and give you some information and share some ideas. Anything you want to say, John, before I start just talking?
I not necessarily. I was just I'm just happy to be here today and excited to have so many folks joining us from all over the country. It sounds like from sunny Florida to Hazard, Kentucky, and beyond. So yes, and here I
love when you put a little testimony in this sidebar. I saw one about a dog just a minute ago that went through with arthritis. So great. We are just loving those stories. So today is a little bit different. I'm sure most of you realize that it's 9/11. So lots of things come to mind on that day. To me, the word trauma comes to mind, no matter what you're talking about. It was the trauma that has lasted over a generation. And other generations have had other traumas. So I kind of wanted to share a few ideas along those lines with you, if that makes sense. We're not necessarily talking about anything more than emotions, which we have talked about before. But that's really what is controlling our society today, is so many emotions and so many types of emotional problems. So I thought maybe I might cover some of that. So again, thank you for joining us today. And I think we're ready. Do you want to click us up? So we are talking about trauma and some ideas on the WAVwatch, but mostly I wanted to start off with just ideas about our life today. Of course, we never want to forget 9/11 and those that traumatic day and how it changed all of our lives forever. But again, I've already said it, every generation seems to have something. So we want to talk about a lot of ideas maybe, and maybe it's a process, maybe it's a release idea too. So almost 3,000 people died on 9/11. But I don't know if you know that there were 347 first responders who died on 9/11. And since then, that many more have died of related illnesses from that particular day. So as we go ahead in our society today, I looked up a few statistics, and I guess I'm a statistic person once in a while, but our first responders really go through a lot. So you can read along with me, obviously, but 1 in 3 first responders develop PTSD. You know, I don't know if I knew it must be a stressful job, but when you put a number to it, you know, when you actually say it. So nearly 37% of EMS personnel and firefighters have contemplated suicide. And already some 400,000 first responders in the US have been diagnosed with PTSD. So these first responders have been helping us since 9/11, obviously before 9/11 and after. And, you know, maybe we need to be learning some things because so many of these people are in our lives. You know, maybe you know a fireman personally, or you're married to one, you know, that kind of an idea. And they need a lot of our help and support. So, and a lot of our thank yous for everything that they've done. So I just thought that was some information that was important to me to learn. I didn't know it. And I really hope that it touches you as much as it did me, that they're still fighting to this day and still having trauma. And then when we look at our veterans, different ways, different categories, different ideas about all kinds of people that have such obvious trauma experiences, about 7% of veterans will experience PTSD. And I guess it differs. They were able to measure it by war. So I found this statistic. It's kind of interesting how our AI for the internet now just kind of gives you a list of ideas. So that's where this one came from. And 11 to 20% of veterans in Iraq and Afghanistan have been labeled PTSD. The Gulf War was about 10%, and 30% of veterans who served in Vietnam have PTSD. So you look at different age groups, more of them had PTSD from Vietnam. And that is, to me, that was kind of interesting. I hadn't had that pointed out. But then, of course, we have our Wounded Warriors and the project, Wounded Warrior Project, and 76% of those are reporting PTSD. And women have more PTSD than men veterans. So,
do you think that that's actually true, or do you think that men underreport it? I'm a guy.
oh,
That's what I was going to say.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
I think
great
it's
point
probably
there.
highly underreported for men.
I'm happy to say that I think that some of the stigma for any of that has started to drop considerably over the last decade, and that the people are feeling more comfortable to talk about it. But I would suspect that some of these numbers are off because of that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So any other ideas, just fill me in, guys. Add some things as we go, because we're just kind of talking about all of our society and all the trauma that is going on. So I just found a collage. I wish I could have found some more, but I think I was talking to my sons before I started gathering up some of these photos and things. But to me, a big trauma is the Kennedy assassination. I remember that when I was in grade school and we were called into the gymnasium, the whole school was, and the announcement was made. And so that is a stigma in my mind. What's a stigma in your mind, John, from growing up?
You caught me good. So I remember very distinctly, I believe it was a cold December morning in 1986. Not to date myself, but I was 6 years old, and I was in first grade. And it might not have been December, but I'll find the date because you're about to know what it is. But
I know what it is.
they filed it could have been kindergarten, but they filed my class into the library, and they rolled out a TV. It's like the one TV in the school on this cart, and it was probably kind of small, but we were all sitting crisscross applesauce, and we were so excited to watch the shuttle launch, and then the shuttle goes up and then it starts blowing. I mean, it was obviously very traumatic. It was a Challenger. And so all of a sudden you see, I try to be insightful, maybe even then, but I look at the librarian and she's making eyes at the teacher, and they're like, they're like, oh gosh, what do we do? And then we were just kind of calmly escorted from they turned the TV off and they calmly escorted us from the library. But, just seeing that in live was something that I'll never forget. But also, being very interested in technology and space and exploration and all of that, and it has changed. It changed our nation, and then the Columbia, and after that. But that one really stuck with me, and I was 6, and I think it imprinted on my mind, just in the same way that maybe the Kennedy assassination did for you, Mom. So,
what about you, Joseph? Have you got a? That's great hearing you share. I mean, not great, but hearing you share your story about the Challenger. I remember very similar, except my class didn't get to go. I don't know why, but I snuck out because I wanted to be an astronaut. So I was in the library, and the librarian was nice enough to let me watch, and then I saw it happen. So I don't know, and we probably would have been in the same school. I'm surprised. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Timnath Elementary in Fort Collins, Colorado, back in the day.
Back in the day. So, but also I was just going to say, I remember 9/11 really clearly. I had just graduated from college, and I was working with the group. We were going to play music in schools in Eastern Europe, and we were in training for 3 weeks. We were in Florida, and we had tickets to fly on September 13th to go to Europe. to start playing music in schools in Poland and Hungary and Czech Republic. And we heard something happen. They set up a TV, and so we watched live as the Twin Towers fell. And then as a team, we all had to pray and decide and talk to our families and say, are we still going? What are we doing? Because the world changed.
Right.
I mean, by an immense amount on that day. And we all decided that we should go. And so we left on September 19th, flew to Europe. And it was just a total shift in eras from, I don't know. It was just palpable in the air. The positive, we had a lot of people that talked to us and expressed their sadness, but also some people that didn't feel the same way. So it was interesting.
Wow. So if we had time to take some more ideas from people, hopefully this picture represents it a little bit of it, but Martin Luther King, what a traumatization for the whole nation on that particular death and assassination. And Princess Diana's death, this one actually shows her wedding, but the flip side of it when she died was traumatic to so many people. John Lennon's, and the list goes on and on. Everybody's going to have a different trauma, but we are all carrying them. We can still remember. And then those are national tragedies. Those are people that we saw on the news. We haven't even talked about our personal things that could be our own trauma. So we are all affected by trauma. And are we processing it? Are we doing something with it? Are we dealing with it? So that's kind of why we're talking about that today. So
can you go back to that last picture? I have one other thing that's interesting. So, well, two things. First of all, if you're out there and you see my chin shaking, I'm not nervous. Nothing's wrong. It's a strange tick, and even the WAVwatch hasn't been able to get rid of it. I've had it since birth. Don't worry, everything's fine. My chin jumps when I'm concentrating or maybe a little nervous. Just an FYI. Anyway, what's interesting is that we're learning so much about generations. The boomers and X and Y, Gen Z, all these things. Well, believe it or not. Obviously boomers came in the aftermath of World War II and the economic boom that was going on. But these events that we're speaking of now are what actually create the cultural changes that drive generations. So 9/11 became that's where there's a generational split. And then also COVID is going to, in the next few years, the way that it hashes out, COVID is going to have done the same because it was such a radical change for our society. So it's kind of interesting how, and I know I'm straying from trauma a little bit, but it's kind of interesting to see the way that those events have driven the generational changes in our society.
So true. Definitely. And then we have personal statistics like we were, kind of starting into, and 70% of us, that's the statistic. 70% of us have experienced some type of traumatic event. That's 223.4 million people, whatever the number is. That's a lot of people. To go just a little bit deeper, in the United States, here, a woman is beaten every 15 seconds. A forcible rape occurs every 6 seconds or 6 minutes. More than 33% of youths exposed to community violence will experience PTSD. And then trauma is the leading cause of death for people aged 1 to 44, accounting for almost 47% of deaths in that age group. So, wow, we're talking about a big topic. And I do have where I got those statistics from at the bottom of the page. So this is from the National Council for Mental Well-Being. Those are hard statistics.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking for a book, but if you can go back to that last slide, it's not exactly what these statistics say, but there was a study that shows that physical wellness is linked to trauma. So I know you said trauma is the leading cause of death. I'm not sure if that's saying because of, a traumatic accident or something, but that I think 50 to 60% of chronic illnesses are related to early trauma that wasn't resolved. So that's from the book, The Healing Codes, Dr. Alexander Lloyd here in Nashville. And I wanted to, I'm trying to find the book and I'll share that statistic, but just thinking about how our mental health and trauma affects our physical reality and our physical health. So.
Yes. So we're talking about the mind, body, and spirit in all of this when we're talking about trauma. So kind of hard to say, every statistic, but just to kind of set the stage for a little bit. And then John has already mentioned the pandemic, how it is changing our youth into young adults and, blah, 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 how our lives are changed because of that so dramatically. This statistic from WHO is saying that women have been more severely impacted than men, and that people obviously with pre-existing physical health conditions, there you go, that's another tie-in with that, were more likely to develop symptoms of mental disorders because of this. So this pandemic triggered anxiety and depressions worldwide. So we know that, but just a statistic to show you. Now, we have other things going on in the United States that I did want to mention. So we have an estimated 27.6 million. Now, this is worldwide. I'm sorry, I should have said worldwide. And this is human trafficking, which is coming more and more and more to the forefront. So we are seeing so many people being exploited in so many different ways. And so this is another source of trauma that people are starting to talk about more and more. So whether you have been a victim or you are living with a victim or related to a victim, you are feeling some of that trauma also. And so there are so many, situations rolling over because of being exposed to this horrific problem, more than we could believe. So now we have another problem that we are finally understanding and realizing and acknowledging a little bit more than in the past. This wouldn't have been talked about in my generation when I was growing up in grade school, but they are showing that it was going on probably. So now we're just hearing more and more about it. And I see somebody put something in the Columbine, school shootings. So yes, so today we have all of the school shootings. So I could have spent a whole hour just going over things that traumatize us. And actually I did, and I made it too long. And so then I kind of got a little depressed looking at all this stuff. And then I put some videos in, and we were having trouble with the videos. But do we have the next video working? I think it might be on the next one. Oops, went the wrong way. Yeah, is this video going to work now?
Yes, give me 1 second to pull the video up. We'll have to share it.
So with not a lot of effort, you can look online and see all kinds of videos about trafficking or sexual exploitation, many different labels. But this is the little 2-minute video. And then her solution, because we want to start working for solutions. We want to start seeing what we can do for solutions for
All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew that if I came out and talked about human trafficking, that I would be the face of something that was bigger than me. Human trafficking is the second slavery. Today, 1 in 4 girls will have been sexually exploited before she even reaches the age of 18. How do we stop youth from being at risk to this unworthy injustice? It is a painful love triangle. It's the buyer, the seller, the slave. Children who are dismissive. Maybe we call them loners today. They like to be alone a lot. They're quiet. Usually those are big red flags that there's something happening. Things like not being able to have a voice in the house, to be the child that always do as I'm told. When you're being pimped at that early age, you don't know that this is your pimp. You think that this is your potential forever mate. Don't use your body. You are a commodity, but you're not for public trade. You're not for sale. There's a difference between who I am and what was done to me. Your mission is who you are, but your vision is what you see. And I see a survivor of human trafficking.
So this lady has an amazing testimony, and we had that video also, a little 2-minute testimony from her, but we just couldn't get it all to work. But she was homeless at the age of 15 on the streets, and then was trafficked, was, pimped out. And today, I don't know that you caught on the video, she has a doctorate and she is educating people. So she has made all the steps that she needed to turn her life around and help others. And I'm just so thrilled to see that, it was doctor. I'm not sure that I caught the whole name, but she has her doctorate and she is helping women or others in so many different ways. So great ideas that the internet do provide. There are some amazing videos that we can see there, and that was an easy one to find. So this is the other one. Can you get it to work, or just showing some images of her?
Oh, the second video on the same person?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
This is, and it does, it's,
sure.
If you
Yeah.
get it to work, fine. But this is her story.
Okay, sorry, there are two videos. Let me get the other one you wanted.
Oh, it's not a have to, but this is her story, and I just kind of verbally said it. So we're okay then. If that makes it easier for you.
I have it if you want me to show it. No problem.
Oh, okay. 2 minutes.
All right.
Dr. Hamilton.
I am Dr. Niecy Hamilton, and I am a survivor of human trafficking. When I was 15, I had aged out of foster care, and I was homeless. And I remember running into a homegirl who told me, hey, I have a solution for your problem. I work as a waitress at a strip club. You can use my ID to work at another strip club while I work at this strip club. And all you're doing is waitressing. You make money, your boyfriend to keep your baby. And hey, you'll be good. As the boyfriend's keeping my baby, he goes, you can't get your kid back unless you make me $200 a day. He's going to the strip club, bragging about how much money he's making off of me. And there's another pimp that's sitting in the club. He sends a message to the girls that he's already pimping out to me that I can make $200 a day faster if I'm no longer a waitress, but a stripper, because he wants to see what am I willing to give up, or what am I willing to sacrifice. That was barrier testing. Let me test your limits. The betrayal comes in. Baby, you ain't been working. It's hard for me to get your hair and your nails done like I used to. I need you to bring in some money. So we're talking about from 15 to 19. I had already been trafficked and sleeping with every bit of about 1,500 men at this point. I made a decision to enlist into the Navy without my pimp knowing about it. And when he found out, I still got beat. And I remember begging the officer, please don't arrest me. Please don't arrest me. I said, I'm leaving to the Navy. This is the only chance. This is the only chance I got to get away. I need you to help me. And he looked at me and he said, I believe you. But had I been arrested that night, I wouldn't have survived human trafficking.
Wow.
Reactions? I saw you react.
It's powerful. It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying it was so amazing that she has her doctorate now, and her second testimony that we showed first was I just cried all the way through that, to know that she had come out of this and is helping others. And that's what we want to empower everybody to do. Somehow we need to, as a group of people, a civilization, a country, a state, a county, we need to be empowering people. So, okay, let's see what else we have. These are a few ideas. When we are traumatized, again, we've talked about 70% of us are traumatized. And so after a distressing event of any kind, some people find that their reactions are serious and they do not gradually subside after a month. So they really say to give yourself about a month of time. And then if you are still having all kinds of problems, to seek professional help. So we have a lot of information about that in different places, or you could look that up. But these are some particular trauma responses. So if you are still having a lot of over-the-top ideas like this, I've got a couple of different slides. But, if you're very controlling or become bullying, or you go the opposite way and you freeze and you're stuck and you're isolating yourself, or maybe you're having panic attacks, or any way that you want to phrase it, a short version would be flight, fight, freeze, or fawn, So these are some trauma responses that you would recognize from yourself, hopefully, or from other people around you, and maybe be able to get them some help if it lasts longer than about a month. Now, some people, they're going to go, 3 weeks to support, and some people might wait till 2 months, whatever. But just think about that just a little bit. Our bodies are going to respond for a short period of time. But after that, get some professional help, start doing some other things. Now, these are some physical problems that could happen, from trauma. So, we could all raise our hands. We're all having some things like this because of the trauma in our society. So I think I can let you read some of those, but of course the sadness. But when you start seeing self-destructive behavior or anxiety attacks, nightmares, people that are spacing out. If you see something so obvious and that is happening in a person around you, I hope that this information will be good, or that you can grab your phone and just Google some ideas. How do I help somebody who's having a panic attack? How do I help somebody who's traumatized? The list goes on and on. There's so many different reactions that we can have from a trauma. So, maybe some people are violent or destruction of property, and others it's just headaches or insomnia, stomach problems. Again, I'm not reading the list just, one by one, but problems are going to happen if your body has not processed that trauma. So WAVwatch has an emotional wellness guide. And I put a lot of work into gathering up some of these slides, and I should have just went to my own website and started here because Ian Smith just has written an amazing guide for emotional wellness. So I have that link at the bottom, and Joseph or John, maybe you could put that in the sidebar also to make sure that you can find it.
I got it.
She has written a whole guide for you that could be very, very helpful. And I could spend 2 hours going over all the information that she has in the guide. She has a list of prayers that you can click on and go to. They were just amazing. And the list goes on and on of the things that she was able to share. She gives you a list of ideas for contacting professional help. Other ideas that she has on there, Joseph or John, do you remember other things?
I mean, we can go through the guide, but I just put the link in there. But yeah, she's got some prayers, some mindfulness ideas, some exercises, and really there's so much you can do on your own. But I would encourage, to find a friend that can help you, if you're struggling or if you're feeling anxiety, or especially a professional. But absolutely, there's a lot you can do on your own. Takes work.
So one expert who's written a couple books, if I'm saying the name correctly, Bessel van der Kolk, says that yoga is one of the best support ideas for trauma. And he thought this was a bunch of, he didn't think that was going to work. But when he looked at the statistics and he worked with people who did trauma, who did yoga for trauma, he found out how good it was. So Ina has already included these yoga videos for stress release on our website. And I'm just letting you know that it's backed up. So here's, a different idea, 2 ideas about the importance of actual yoga. So, wow, if we've been stressed out. So she actually has links to yoga for anxiety and stress, anxiety for they're differentiated for anxiety and depression, for stress relief. It's a little bit different for a panic attack. So this is how thorough the report is that Ina did for emotional support. So I just hope that you appreciate all her effort on that. Do you want to take a minute, Joseph, and go through that particular area, or is that?
I don't know that we have time for that,
okay.
But
all right.
Yeah.
And I would even also add, first, everyone's different. And so I've done some yoga and some stretching and whatnot and different things. And it's been great in the past. I probably need to get back into it a little bit more. But in addition to that, some people, I have some friends that have been going through different things and working out and kind of, if one is able, I mean, obviously this is not for everyone, but, kind of sweating through things and exerting and that sort of thing is yet another way that we can re-energize our bodies and help combat stress.
It's just amazing some of the things that we can do for ourselves. And I've already covered this on several different presentations, but we just want to be so careful about reaching out for support and deciding on a medication, so that can be everybody's choice, but please be very, very careful with that when there are so many things that might be more natural that you can do. So you can look up ideas along those lines. And again, yoga is one of the easiest ones to do. Now, this is actually could be a video, and I didn't know this existed. It's so fun to go on the internet once in a while and find something new. But this is actually one that we couldn't get to play. Excuse me. But there's a whole book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's brain, mind, and body in the healing of trauma. And so this has been converted, this whole book has been converted like into a 4-minute animated video. And so this is Bessel van der Kolk telling us some of the ideas. And he, again, accentuates that yoga is very, very good for trauma. And another idea that he had that was so easy was that he's teaching people to actually follow their eyes. So as a therapist, he would put his hand over here and ask the person who's traumatized to look at his finger and then follow his finger all the way across. And that is the simplest exercise. And again, he poo-pooed it and said, oh, there's no way that could work to release trauma. But it does work according to him. And this is called EMDR. And it's eye movement desensitization.
Desensitization. I can't say that
You got
either.
it now. You got it.
Processing. I scribbled it, so then I was having trouble here. But that's why they call it EMDR. So you are following somebody's finger from one side of your face to the other side. And that little technique, now they didn't say how often you need to do it or if you do it 10 times in a row. They didn't elaborate on the procedure, but maybe you could look that up if that's something. It seemed really easy. And he was just very gung-ho about that as being one of the main things that you could do to actually release trauma. And then the third thing
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, let me say something about EMDR. That's a very simple explanation, but a couple things. Really what it is, it's stimulating your brain on both sides, right? So that's the finger, but other therapists do that with tapping. And you can do this on your own, tapping on your knees or your legs and alternating. But it really is something that you should do with a trained therapist, because part of it is walking through the traumatic events you've had while you do these bilateral stimulations to help it keep it from being in the front of your brain. So it's not just that EMDR is not just something you can do at home. You really need to, there actually is a list. I'll post a link of EMDR certified therapists. But I would highly recommend this. I know people in my life that have used this to really help them.
And thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you for really expanding on that. I was just trying to show the simplicity of something that doesn't have to be a drug, but you do need to reach out for support.
But there are other ideas related to this that you can do on your own. One is called binaural beats. You can find these on YouTube, and if you're having some anxiety, and you put some headphones on and it plays music that goes between the left and right sides of your brain. So that's similar to EMDR. And another very simple one that any of us can do, almost any of us, is walking. As you walk, you've got a left and right pattern. And so many cultures we just don't walk that much as Americans. And it's such an important health thing, not just for longevity and health and just social, but also just that back and forth rhythm is great for your body, but also your mind. So. Perfect.
Any other expansions on that? Because I was just trying to, let you know that.
That's all I had. Just wanted to jump in.
No, it's perfect. So look for things that you can do that, I'm sorry to say the word again, are not medication if you can stay away from that. Acknowledge that you have a problem of some kind or that someone that you're around is having problems, and, feed some ideas to them if they need some support so that they know that the only thing is not a medication. And I know that this group is very strong about staying away from medications as much as possible, because that's why you like the WAVwatch, or you're checking out the WAVwatch if you don't have one yet. And I really appreciate this because people are learning about self-care. So we're just trying to introduce some ideas in a short period of time, for trauma that could be very simplistic. Are you sure? Do we have anything else to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, I just put the link in the comments to find an EMDR therapist, and expanding on what you were saying, we definitely could talk about the dangers of antidepressants because it's becoming a bit of an epidemic or a pandemic even in our nation and our culture, because a lot of times they're only meant to be a temporary, somebody's really struggling, a 1 to 2 to 3 month thing, but then people get on them for years, and it's really, that's not the way they were designed. And but a lot of times the medical system doesn't think through that, and then sometimes changing those drugs can cause psychotic episodes and dangerous things. So it's really sad. Just like the opioid epidemic, a company made billions of dollars saying that opioids were the only way to cure pain. Well, actually, studies showed that mindfulness was as effective as opioids in pain reduction, and so was alternating Tylenol and ibuprofen. And yet we have billions hooked, not billions, millions of people hooked on opioids for money. And I would wager to say the same thing is coming out with antidepressants, because there are several studies showing that 20 minutes of exercise 3 times a week is the same effect as many antidepressants. So all the stuff we were talking about, just getting your body moving, is so important for your mental health. And I see somebody in the comments said a mini trampoline. I've heard of that as well. Also good for your lymphatic system. I'll show there.
Wow, I like that one too. So we'll see if we see any other ideas that come up for releasing stress and trauma. But obviously, we're talking about, the WAVwatch today too, just a little bit. And we've got 1,000 different settings. About 100 of them are for emotions. And so, John, do you want to share a little bit about our code today?
Joseph's the one that's got that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I picked on the wrong son here.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so we just set up a special discount code just for today, Trauma 100. So, and one of the things we wanted to do was, if you've seen before around, I think it was last November, we did a giveaway with veterans where for every watch you purchased, we supported veterans with a watch and donated those to veterans. So we are working on a way to donate WAVwatches to organizations that help people dealing with trauma or PTSD or who have been trafficked. So we're just, Mom, this is your idea, but I'm just kind of leading off into this. We're trying to figure this out, but we will set aside some watches for everybody that uses that code, and we will figure out a partnership or organizations that can benefit from those.
So we're just doing that for the next couple of days, so if anybody buys, a watch, we will definitely donate. I found several for human trafficking that I was looking at, and I've made some connections, but the final connection hasn't been made yet. So I didn't want to say positively where we were donating it to, but $100 will go for, will be deducted. Obviously, you'll get $100 off, and then we will donate a WAVwatch to an organization.
And I'll put that link in the comments too.
We also wanted to share this video and see if is it working.
I'll grab that video. Give me a minute.
Okay, I'll go ahead and show this. So I have showed this several times, but I know we have new people each time. But this seems to be my favorite go-to set of images because it shows too much. And then my images keep shifting, so I'm sorry about that. But I do thermography, and it is an imaging camera that measures heat. And so when I take an image, obviously the red is going to be the most inflamed areas, and your nose and cheeks are supposed to be cool and a different color completely. So the greens and yellows through here are normal and don't show a lot of heat or irritation or infection or those kind of ideas. So what we're looking at, I took an image of an elderly lady who was about 82 years old, and she told me she had PTSD. And I believe every client that I have, and I just said, "Oh, what is it from? Where do you get PTSD?" And she said it was from her great grandchildren. So we've been talking about all the kinds of things that can cause stress and trauma, but that's one I had not thought about, so everybody is different, but she obviously did have this because this is her image to start with. And then we played PTSD on the watch, and we took a picture 30 minutes later, and this is what she looked like. So you can see that a lot of that inflammation went away in 30 minutes. And then, like I said, these pictures got mixed up and I forgot to try to change them again. And then the one on the left side, she is less inflamed 30 minutes later. So in 1 hour, she changed drastically. Then in the next slide is a side view at the same time. So
And that
on
one
the,
looks to be in the right order.
yes.
Oh no, it's completely reverse order, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what is happening to
It's fully
these.
reversed.
So this is the first picture that I took, and she was totally stressed. And the white spots are the hottest spots. And well, good grief. There we go. And so you can see all of that stress that she's carrying. And then 30 minutes later, this was her side view, and you can see that it had changed. And then this is the second, 30-minute segment. We also played the inflammation and trauma frequencies. So this is quite a good video to let you know that hopefully if you're playing the WAVwatch on inflammation, pain, and trauma, or PTSD or things like that, that what's going on inside your body is changing. That's our hope. We have no medical studies on this, but just some images that I took. So that's a possibility of change that is really going on behind the scene. Okay, do we have a video or is it still stuck?
I got a video for you.
Okay. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. I wanted to share really quickly. I was in the military, and while I was in the military, I was deployed overseas in combat. And while in combat, my unit got attacked and I was injured while I was there. I suffered a traumatic brain injury as well as PTSD. After I had left, not to get too deep into all those things, but after I got out of the military, was getting care through the VA, and the VA had put me on numerous medications to deal with the chronic pain, the memory loss, and the TBI. And I really did not want to go and continue taking the medications because I was really kind of at I hate to say it, but in kind of a fog. I was really no good for my family. I was really just not, I just couldn't function properly. And I had a friend of the family came over, and they were over for dinner, and they had a WAVwatch on. And they heard me, and they knew of the issues that I was talking about. And they said, "Hey, Dave, you should try this. We think it might help you." And so I had it on just over the maybe about a half hour while we were sitting around having dinner. And I noticed that my back had been feeling better, because up to that point I was just having chronic back pain that would actually wake me up in the middle of the night. I was getting, it was so bad that I hadn't been sleeping for I may get about 2 to 3 hours of sleep over the last 2 years. And so I went, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I haven't felt this way in a while." I asked if I could borrow it just that night. And I did, and I actually slept through the night. It was so amazing. And so I immediately went, and I told him, I said, "Hey, you got to tell me where I got to go to get this." And so that day they showed me how to get it. I went online, and I got it right here. Got it on right now. But I've been wearing it. I made a playlist up just for chronic pain. I wear that as I sleep. And then when I get up in the morning, then I'm actually, then I have it dealing with the other issues when I wake up in the morning. But I could not, I speak volumes of anybody that'll sit and want to talk to me, I'll praise WAVwatch. You guys have just done so many wonderful things for me and my family. So I just want to say thank you.
So I don't know if any of you had seen that before, but it definitely fit into what we're talking about today. So we have so much trauma, so much pain, mental pain, physical pain, the list goes on, and from so many sources. We can't even imagine what is causing someone else's trauma sometimes. Just like the example with the grandmother, and it was her great grandchildren that were causing her PTSD. You know, to me, that just kind of says it all. So we do need support, and we need to be sharing with each other. So I really appreciate, you sharing some ideas about different things that you have seen too, like the trampoline and things like that. So,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And we're just about, kind of winding down just a little bit, but don't forget that we're not trying to say that everything is 100%. This is not a medical device. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical condition. It's not a licensed medical product. All acoustical frequencies are considered experimental. Do not forget, these are acoustical frequencies in the range of 20 to 20,000. And the little sound that it makes is kind of like a bee buzz. Some of the frequencies for the emotions are very soft, and you really cannot hear them hardly at all. So we are asking you to play more emotions in this character, or in this trauma type idea, but you may not be able to hear them. And that's the whole concept of the WAVwatch, is that you don't necessarily have to hear them. You are going to absorb them on the back of the watch. So also, the WAVwatch is not considered FDA approved or a medical device. Testimonies are volunteer. No one's been reimbursed. And the WAVwatch refers to the commonly used names of disease, only in relationship to their sound frequencies. And it's not a medical diagnosis. So one more part to read on this. The WAVwatch offers low-risk acoustical frequency products that promote self-care, help to maintain or encourage good health, or reduce the impact or risk of some chronic diseases and conditions where self-care has been shown to play an important role in improving quality. We have to kind of cover that and make sure that you understand what we're talking about. So if you have ordered a product, hopefully you've gotten everything like this. If you're ordering it, this is what you will get. And so we have 2 watch bands. We have included a screen protector, your cord, charging block, and a case to carry it in with a 24-page frequency guide. And so the last thing I have is a little bit of information on how you make a playlist, because you can make several playlists, and people have asked me how to make a playlist. But other than that, do you have any comments, Joseph and John? Should I go ahead and play this?
Oh, I don't have that one, but oh,
this one isn't. Okay, yeah. This is. All right, so we don't actually have the video on this one working for some. Again, we had trouble with every single video. I had it too loaded with videos. But yes, is there any questions that I could answer? We have just a few more ideas, but what I would suggest is that you play inflammation, pain, and trauma. That's the first one that we suggest for everybody. And then these are suggestions, other suggestions for this whole topic area. There's SAD, depression, sleep disorders, a lot of the emotions. I would play through so many of those. I would also play hormone balance. And in the organs, I would play brain, the hypothalamus, the pituitary. In addition to that, in the weight folder is adrenal balance, emotional eating, and pineal gland stimulation. Those are all good. And then self-care, there's an insomnia folder. So these might be some additional ideas that you might play. Plus, you could play all of the emotions. So we have a list of those. And of course, hopefully you've seen those when you've looked at your booklet or opened the WAVwatch just a little bit and touched on emotions. So we have these. We have PTSD. We have self-image balance, sleep disorders. And at this point, if somebody is having some trauma, I just suggest you play through all of the emotional ideas. And then we have something called emotional combos. And these are also available on the WAVwatch. And these are actually Bach remedies. These are from plants. They actually can measure the frequency of a plant. And these plants have been used for over 100 years for their ability to help with emotions. So these are on the WAVwatch also. Just a little bit more information, but this is why it's so important. Emotions can harm your body and overall health. So anger messes up the heart and the liver. Shock attacks your kidneys. So if you're stressed from trauma, from something that's even emotional, your kidneys can be messed up. Anxiety affects your digestion. That's why so many people throw up when they're anxious, Fear affects the adrenals and the kidneys. Worry weakens the stomach. Sadness weakens your lungs. And so we actually have a code on the WAVwatch, and it's emotional ties to diseases. And I don't think I have that listed. It's in the emotional area too, but emotional ties to diseases. So that kind of covers some of these ideas.
I was going to throw another one out on that. The last slide you had is that unforgiveness is tied to back pain, or grief or loss can be tied to shoulder. And also, I don't know if you had heard this statistic, but over 90% of cases of irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, are related to anxiety. So what that digestion there, doctors have found that in 90% of the time, IBS is related to mental stress and anxiety.
Wow. So, we cause our physical ailments sometimes from our traumatic stress. Yes, they are caused. They are all tied together. John, are you adding something here?
I'm nodding because I'm in agreement, but
sorry, I was moving the slides around accidentally.
I think somebody was mentioning something on the solfeggio frequencies. I'm not sure that I got to read the whole thing, but I'll just flip over to this screen really quickly. So we also have the solfeggio frequencies in the emotional category too. So,
and we have those on the WAVwatch.
And we have those on the WAVwatch. They are in the emotional category. So you can just play through those one at a time, or you could select one and play it on a loop. Okay. All right. So that person's testimony was saying that they really like the solfeggio frequencies. And then we also have chakras. And so these are labeled this way, and they are in the emotional frequency area. And so these are the exact frequencies. Now, these I can tell you the frequencies on very easily, but a lot of the other ones, the majority of frequencies on the WAVwatch might have up to 20 or 30 frequencies in each set. So like if I was talking about anxiety, it would take a whole page for me to list the frequencies that are inside that particular one. So that's why in just a few instances, I can tell you the exact frequency, but the others, when I have about 24,000 frequencies on the WAVwatch, I can't list those all and show those to you all the time. I think there was a request. Could Joseph list the 3 again? Could you please list the 3 again? I think you were talking about IBS. Or no, and you were talking about the back.
List the 3. I'm not sure what she's looking for.
Neck pain. Maybe.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not sure what that comment's related to. The 3, Joan, maybe clarify list. So back pain for unforgiveness, neck pain, trauma, stomach issues, IBS, worry and fear, anxiety.
Oh, so, yeah.
I don't know if that's what she was asking about. Maybe, but anyway.
Okay. All right. So I think we are winding down. We do have 1,000 different selections, and don't forget, there's 3 swipe screens, and we still have people who call us that don't really, and they've had their watch, a bit of time and don't realize that there's actually 3 swipe screens. There's 4 ways to repeat the frequency. There's the ability to create 3 playlists. And again, it's not necessary to hear that. So I think that kind of wraps up some ideas on just a couple of ideas, but mostly we wanted to take the day. It is a somber day pretty much, but it makes us think, sometimes think about our blessings and turn those somber days, turn those sad days into days where we are praying and we are trying to bless others and help others. And it is so important that we reach out to others. That was one of the most healing things that we can achieve or can be helpful for trauma, is to reach out to others, to not be afraid to tell our story, to, work, to go out, to do things, not to be by ourselves and isolated. So thank you for joining us today. And I hope you have a wonderful week and have a few more ideas to share with people.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I just wanted to put back the slide about the watch. If anybody does want to get one using that code that we had created for today, there it is. So, yeah, we are just trying this out to support organizations that help people with trafficking or trauma or PTSD. So, yeah, if you buy a watch with that code, then we will donate a watch to that organization. And we're excited about doing some things in this area. It's a huge issue for our society and our planet. So we're really excited to move in this, and thank you for your help. All right. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.